How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your August 2019 horoscope for Sagittarius, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. We are ending July and starting August off with the new moon in Leo and Mercury finally stationing direct. Now, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 9th house, and what's important to know is that the Sun, Mars, and Venus are still in Leo, so there's still some energy being brought up in this 9th house area for you guys. However, this new moon is going to be a really good time to recharge your batteries, re-level yourself, and this is in Leo. This is about kind of like getting back to your identity, knowing who you are, being more authentic. And this is in your 9th house of long distance travel, foreign countries, foreign languages, higher education, spirituality, philosophy, religion. And so the big thing that I want to hit with this new moon in Leo is this is a good time to recenter yourself in your vision with who you are and what you believe about yourself. Now, on August 1st, that is when Mercury stations direct in Cancer, and Mercury's been retrograde in your 9th and your 8th house, so this has been a weird area for you guys. I know I'm going through it. And as Mercury has been retrograding in your 9th house of Leo, kind of maybe changing your beliefs or your vision about things or where you want to go, Mercury going direct in your 8th house is kind of weird because the 8th house is all about death, other people's money, inheritances, what other people have that you don't see. It rules the hidden and secrets and taboo. And so while Mercury goes direct in Cancer, I think this is about realizing what is of the most importance and necessity and getting you down to the reality of things, of what is important, so that can help you better shape your beliefs about this world, like that 9th house stuff is going to bring up. But then as we jump ahead about 10 days later, Mercury goes back into Leo on August 11th. And Mercury now going back into Leo is starting to have a better mindset and better thought process about what your beliefs are and how you imagine yourself. However, while Mercury's still in shadow, this isn't the time to really act out. What's important, though, is that while Mercury's in Leo, it's not about roaring at the top of your lungs to get everyone's attention, although you can. You don't have to roar that loud every time you want to roar. It's kind of like knowing when to say something when it's appropriate, but also speaking out of integrity, speaking out of authenticity, speaking from the heart and with what you believe. Also on August 11th, that is when Jupiter finally stations direct, and this is good news for you guys because you've had Jupiter in your 1st house all year, but unfortunately we've also had Saturn and Pluto in the South Node going on, so that's been taking away from that. But Jupiter's been in Sagittarius for this whole year, and as it was first moving forward, this was not creating opportunities, but opening up space for things to be delivered to you in a sense. And as Jupiter's been retrograde, this is you being more philosophical and asking yourself the right questions about what do you believe about yourself. This is Jupiter, the philosophical planet in the 1st house of the self. So now that Jupiter's stationing direct and finally starting to move forward, this is when we can start, having more opportunities presented to us. This is Jupiter in the 1st house. This is you feeling more lucky, feeling more spontaneous, feeling more abundant with everything. So, can't hit on enough that fucking Jupiter going direct is a super positive thing for us Sagittarius risings. But then on August 14th, that is when Venus conjoins the Sun, and now at this time Venus is on the other side of the Sun. It's as far away as it's going to get from us, and it is conjoining the Sun where we'll go Kazemi. Now, Venus, the planet of love and value, relationships, connecting, is in the sign of Leo, so she's seeing more value and wanting to be connected more to the spotlight, getting attention, having validation, being known for the personality and for who they are. And as Venus conjoins the Sun, this is kind of like getting purified by fire and getting a fresh sense of self. And this is happening in your 9th house of belief, of spirituality, of higher education. And so while Venus conjoins the Sun in Leo, I think this is about taking in some pride and taking in some value and being respected for those things in this area for you guys. This year has been a lot, or I should say this year, but this past month has been a lot of what do you believe about yourself? And Venus conjoining the Sun is kind of like realizing that you have the worth and that you have the value, and that if you value value these things enough, you can grow into something higher. You can believe more about yourself and something that's going to be more authentic and true to you. Then on August 15th, we have the full moon in Aquarius, and as we have the Sun, now Mercury, and Venus and Mars in Leo, kind of focusing on what you believe and your spiritual, philosophical side of yourself, The moon in Aquarius, this is lighting. The full moons light up a dynamic. They light up an access for all of us to see. The moon lights up what we don't always see. It lights up the nighttime. And this is the moon in Aquarius. This is about networks. This is about connection. This is a Saturn-ruled sign where it's realistic. It's, durable. It's serious. But this is an air sign where it has to do with logic. It has to do more with the spirit of nature and things like that. But this full moon is happening in your third house. Now, the third house rules a lot of different things like siblings, neighbors, short distance travel, teaching. But the big thing I like to use with the third house is it's kind of like what you're good at. What can you do? How do you utilize yourself? The first house is what you have, first house is who you are, second house is what you have, third house is how you use it. And this full moon in your third house is kind of like, now that you've had all of these realizations and a lot of things have been changing with your beliefs about yourself, now it's about how do you connect yourself to everything that you want to in the way that's really going to benefits you. It's like, how do you utilize yourself and connect yourself in the most logical, most disciplined way to, start, making those beliefs that you have about yourselves more realistic and brought more into your reality. But also on August 15th, that is when Mercury finally leaves shadow and it can start to tread new territory in Leo. And now that Mercury's out of shadow, we've, done our thought process and our thoughts about, our beliefs and our 8th house bullshit. And now that Mercury's finally moving forward, this is more about communicating from the heart, communicating from integrity and authenticity. And while Mercury's going through your 9th house, this is about exploring higher lines of thought, bigger ideas. And while Mercury's in Leo, this is kind of like a grandiose way to look at things. This is Mercury in Leo saying be expressive, say what you want to say, and really start to think more on why you're saying these things. Why do you believe these things? And where do these, words come from when it comes to, your thoughts and your beliefs? But then on August 18th, that is when we have Mars moving into Virgo. Now, this is a big deal because we're going to be talking a lot about Virgo stuff for the rest of this month. But Mars is the planet of our action and our drive, our intentions, how we're doing things. And this is going into Virgo, which Virgo is a earth sign. It's a mutable sign. It's ruled by Mercury. So this has to do with things that are smaller in detail, that are precise, that are analytical, that are, more computed is a good way to put it. And so while Mars is in Virgo, this is going to be a time where we can have better energy focused in on specific things, on tinier details. But you have to remember that Mars is also a malefic planet. It heats up, it causes problems, we get frustrated with it. So while Mars is in Virgo, this can be a time where you kind of get frustrated with all the menial details and the tasks that you have to accomplish. But the one thing is that you have Mars in Virgo here, still giving you the energy to do it. So while you may be annoyed and frustrated, you got the ability to do it. Mars is going into your 10th house though, and the 10th house has a lot to do with your career and your reputation in this world. But the one thing I like to hit on with the 10th house is that it's this angular house. It's all up in the sky for everyone to see. And so while Mars is in Virgo in your 10th house, you could be putting more energy and focus and drive into your career and into your work and what you're doing. But while this is in your 10th house, this can show up in a lot of different ways and on bigger life stuff that not only you recognize, but other people can see without you really even telling them. And then on August 21st, that is when Venus moves into Virgo. Now this changes the flavor a lot because Venus is the planet of love and value and, connection and having fun. Venus is going into her sign of fall. She doesn't really like Virgo. And that's because Venus is trying to have fun. She's trying to have a good time, but Virgo's very detailed. It's very, neutral. It's not good or bad. It just is. And while Venus is in Virgo, Venus can get a little bit overwhelmed with all of the details to things and just kind of wants to, where Venus wants to have fun, she has to focus on all the details of planning the fun time, which can overwhelm her and which can drain her. But while Venus is going into your 10th house of your career, of, the public sphere, of how people see you and how you're recognizable, I think this is positive because Venus is helping us enjoy the smaller tasks that we have handed to us at this moment. This is about, if you got to do all the detail work, detail it, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and do what you can. Now on August 23rd, that is when the sun moves into Virgo and it comes out of your 9th house where you could stop being philosophical and in depth, and it can go into your 10th house where you can be more productive and there's more light on your career and where you're initiating things and where you're effectively putting your time and energy into. But then the next day on August 24th, that is when Venus conjoins Mars. And I bring this up because while Mars is in Virgo, giving us this energy to focus on stuff and to be more specific with our actions, it can get overwhelming. It can get frustrating. This is also Mars in the 10th house. This is going to be problems and frustrations and anger experienced for everyone to see. It may be someone, and you may be just be walking down the street and someone just starts fucking yelling at you for no reason. That's Mars in your 10th house. However, as Venus is going through your 10th house and conjoins Mars, I think this is bringing a softer tone to things. Mars can get overwhelmed with all of his focused and, direct line energy into what it's doing. Venus is kind of like, if you're going to focus on these things, enjoy it and bring value to it. Find the value in focusing on the detail. Like something I said in a couple other my horoscopes, it's like, you don't just do a 180 overnight. You have to take things degree by degree to get to that full 180. And that's a good analogy for this Venus conjoining Mars, is while you've got to take everything 1 degree at a time, enjoy it. Find the value in it. Learn from it. Grow from it. And utilize it. Mars, Venus, the Sun, Mercury later on too are all going to be trining Saturn this month. So this is a very constructive month for you guys in terms of money and in terms of careers. So use this energy while you can. Then on August 29th, that's when Mercury goes into Virgo, and Mercury, the planet of communication and messages, our ideas, our mindset, and how we think, going into its home sign is a pretty positive thing. You can start to get things handled and cleared up, get them organized and be more efficient and effective with your communication and with the more menial things that you're doing within your career. So while Mercury transits Virgo and goes through your 10th house, this is kind of like helping you get the right mindset and the energy to handle all that Mars and Venus is kind of stirring up for you guys in your 10th house area. But then on August 30th, we end the month off with the new moon in Virgo. So now we have the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all of the personal planets in your 10th house for the whole world to see, all in your career area, your public sphere. And I think this is a big time to really look at everything that you're directing your energy into, everything that's kind of coming up, all the details that you're trying to handle. This new moon in Virgo is kind of asking you what needs to get done first, what's more important, and what can get done the quickest. It's like, you don't want to start the thing that, takes the most time first. You want to do the quick stuff while you can, then focus on the big stuff. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next month.